Here we go. Meeting called to order. Today's the council meeting of April 9th, 2024, starting at 7 p.m. Would the clerk please read the statement of compliance?
This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law, duly announced, advertised, and posted in the municipal building. The meeting will adjourn no later than 10 p.m. unless a majority of the council members that are present vote to extend the time.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Cadenacci, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stay standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Kamala,
Present.
Councilwoman Gofredo,
Here.
Councilman McCann,
Here.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Here.
Council President Saliani,
Here.
Councilman Slasinski,
Here.
Councilman Talamini.
Here.
Thank you, Cliff. At this time, we have a very exciting opportunity to give away some awards to the basketball team. So I'm going to invite our liaison to the rec, Councilman Talamini and myself. And at the end, I believe they want to take a picture because we have a check presentation, so we'll be inviting the council up afterwards. This time I'd like to invite basketball commissioner up. There he is.
It's my honor to introduce our 7th grade girls team this year. I'm very proud of this group. They completed an undefeated season, coached 14 and 15 and 0, something like that, right? All the way through the championship game for the Northwest Bergen Basketball League. They won the championship game 51-30, which is actually one of their closer games that they had this season. So we're very, very proud of these girls. So I want to introduce our coaches, Coach Tabitha and Coach Taryn. Come on up, guys.
Who's Tabitha? Tabitha's a certificate of achievement. I want to say thank you so much for all the hard work you do with the girls.
Thank you.
And Taryn, this is also for you.
Thank you very much.
What I'd like you to do is, since you're the coaches of these fine young ladies, I would like you to call them up, present them with each of you.
Charlotte Barrett.
Just stand the
Just stand right here.
Rosie Brugner. Reese Cancellieri. Sophia Casamano. Brooke Curtin. Lexi Enright. Kira Havel. Annabelle Nelson. Gianna Pintone. Anna Vinjay.
Can we take a picture with you guys?
Sure, let's get the hall council up here, please, and then we'll do the check.
Can I just say for 1 second, I just want to say I've coached boys basketball for a number of years and we never had that height. I am so jealous. I am so jealous. Congratulations, girls.
Yeah, good job. Why don't you guys move right in the front here? Right across the front. Make a couple rows.
You guys are gonna have to kneel down.
I'll be like Lexi so you can sit.
Yeah, good.
You're good. She sat front, you're fine.
Okay.
All right, ready? 1, 2.
One inch.
And
Girls, you want to have a seat? Girls, you want to have a seat first? So I also want to introduce while you guys are here, we did a fundraiser this year. We at Oakland Rec, we love sports because not just the winning and losing, not just the lessons we learn on the court, but everything we do off the court. And it's such a great opportunity for us to teach those life lessons. And we had two students this year, two sixth grade students from Oakland, Kavya and Anthony, as a part of their student council presentation, right? They were running for student council, right?
I think so,
Right?
yeah.
It was their idea to do this. So we decided to run a fundraiser for the Covenant House, which is a program that helps youth dealing with homelessness. We called it Hoops for the Homeless. And it was a multi-tier program where we had, as a first part, we had our players shoot a free throw shooting contest. They all made a donation to be able to participate. And we had two of our players actually on this team here hit 22 out of 25 free throws.
Wow.
Very impressive. Sophia and Brooke right here on the end. And there were donations from Frank's Pizza and Atlantic Valley Grill to honor them, and they got theirs. But our actual overall winner, Ashay, I saw you over here, right? Come on out, Ashay. Ashay hit 23 out of 25 free throws to be the champion of our program. Ashay, try to grab before I told everybody. Ashay, actually, Frank's Pizza was nice enough to donate a free pizza and 2-liter bottle of soda every week for a year.
Should be playing football.
Another part of our... So everybody else, keep working your free throws if you want pizza. Another part of our fundraiser, another tier of that was we raffled off a football signed by Saquon Barkley while he was still on the Giants. The Covenant House people were nice enough to help us out with that. Can you bring it up, Steve? And we raffled that off, and our winner of that raffle was the Trotter family. Come on over. Thank you. And then the third and final part was just direct donations. These guys, it was their idea when it was brought to me to say, could we do this through basketball? I love the idea. I thought it was wonderful, so we supported it. And I think it's only right that you guys help us present the check to the Covenant House. So, Kirsten, if you guys come up, you guys want to present them with our check. We were able to raise as a program $3,725. And then our team that raised the most money was actually our sixth grade boys. So what do you guys do? You guys everybody get in the picture.
Hey Shay, get up. Kirsten, you want to get in? Get in the picture.
I'm in it somewhere. I'll get there.
Commissioner, you want to come in?
No, get in there. All right, ready?
Smile.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say it's a testament to this community, our families that live here and the children to really be able to pull off, you know, a donation like this. And I want to thank everybody, all the parents involved. Guys, you work really hard. Ladies also with the basketball team. And I mean, this is really what makes Oakland great. So thank you, everybody. Nice job.
I also want to thank Carolyn Catanacci for doing this because she was a big part of getting this done and making everything work. So there are a lot of people that are a part of making this kind of thing happen, and a lot of credit goes here. Someone who just yelled at me to get the picture.
On behalf of Covenant House and all the young people that we serve across the state, we just want to say thank you so much. And, Stephen and I have the privilege of working with a lot of great students throughout the state, and we truly believe that students are solving the problem that is youth homelessness and helping survivors of human trafficking. So may this be the start of the conversation of Covenant House in Oakland, as you guys all hope to get further involved the way a lot of your kids already have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Hey, Coach? Thank you.
We're good.
Okay. Thank you all.
She's so.
Very nice.
I'm gonna take that one.
We're just going to take a 5-minute break so we can. So this good. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
I'm gonna hit the button to make it turn red. Okay. Oh, okay.
We got 5 minutes. You might be able to sleep.
Okay. So you just turn this screen on. Not yet, just so you know what to do.
I'll get to it.
But I don't want to turn it on until it's ready to go.
I know if it goes on what to do, but he told me once we clicked it, it would go
No,
on.
but you have to turn this red, so you have to hold this, and then when it goes red, it's
So I'm not
rejected.
next?
Public comment.
But you can come sit here and get ready. Yeah, it will, if not, we'll get it set up.
It's public comment. First.
Can we just do it right from here and then we'll push it back?
I'm good.
Tell them not to touch.
Well, right now it's not even on,
Yeah,
so.
we'll get it on.
I'll move over here until the public comment
Yeah.
section.
That's good. We got the microphones here. The microphones here. So little pickups. Okay. All right. And then we'll just tell them. Roll the podium back. Yeah. We need a volunteer.
Just have someone roll it.
Okay. Nothing else is going to be touched.
So you guys are all set?
Yeah.
Is everybody ready? Meeting's back in session. At this time, I'm going to do the mayor's report. A lot going on in town here. Number one, let's talk paving real quick. I know there's a lot of roads being ripped up with public service, our sewers. We had a meeting, as I told you last meeting, we did meet with public service last week, and we're working together with public service and our engineer and to work out the paving program. Bid notice is currently being finalized. The bid notice will be going out next week, and the following week the awards will be awarded. And then on the April 30th council meeting, we will award the bidders that won, and hopefully we'll start paving as early as May. So in the past, we always paved in the fall. Now we're going to be paving right now in the spring instead of waiting the entire summer. Because I know there's a lot of problems with Lakeside, down by Truman and everything else like that. We have some problems that we're going to deal with right away. Seminole Ave, at the bottom, Phase 4 of the sidewalk project is going to start, which goes right around Mirror Lake, so you're going to see that happening in the next couple of weeks. Bush Plaza Park, that is currently underway. You can see the machines down there. I believe the bricks are coming this week for the sidewalk. The only hiccup we have is the flagpole and clock are back ordered for 5 months, but they're going to put all the footings in and everything, and 5 months from now, after they come in, they'll drop and we'll have a grand opening for the park. I don't know if everybody saw the new signs on exit 57 and 58 coming into town. We've taken down the old metal ones. We now have nice 4x4 black posts going up with the signs. We're going to have flowers at the bottom, so when people come to Oakland, it's welcoming. And we're really improving our our downtown and really cleaning this up. And this is one of the small incremental changes that we've made, which is currently has been completed. We expect New Jersey DOT to come out, I believe, next week to fix the guardrail on West Oakland Ave, that same piece that's been dented for the last 10, 15 years. So they're going to come out and fix that. So once again, you come into our town, you got the sign, the guardrail's going to get fixed, and we're slowly moving through the center of town. I want to talk about the earthquake real quick. We had the earthquake last week. Just want to let everybody know, we immediately ordered inspections of all of our bridges. We asked our water department and DPW to check all our water system and sewer systems. We put it out on social media to let us know that we were in good shape. At the same time, the county was inspecting their bridges, New Jersey was inspecting also their bridges up and down the highways and all of their assets. So it was a real event, even though it didn't feel like much. You know, we don't get earthquakes around here, but certainly we took a proactive approach on that. An update on the dump. We had a meeting last Thursday. If you recall, I had reported on the fact that we went to the county commissioners meeting and we asked them to come to Oakland and really understand where the dump is and what the effect it's going to have on our citizens and our community at large. I'm happy to report that Chairwoman Ortiz and Vice Chairwoman Amoruso did come out, and at the library we had a presentation from our borough engineer talking about where the property is located. We had our planner, who you're going to hear from today on another matter, talked about the use and how it's really prohibited in the area. And we also had Lee Heyman from an environmental commission give an environmental report on the deleterious effects of this dump in our town. We also had Senator Shapezi and the mayor of Pompton Lakes in attendance as well. Pompton Lakes mayor is living this on a daily basis, and it was important that the county commissioners hear what they'll be voting on should it ever get to their desk. Patriots Way Bridge, we have a meeting tomorrow. I know we had a town hall meeting about 5 weeks ago. We are in the process of ordering the signs, the mirror, the reflectors, and the speed monitoring equipment. So right now we're in the procurement process so that we can get all that equipment installed up in the reserve, including paving the exits, which are currently pretty rough right now. I also want to address the water real quick. There was a letter that went out today concerning water. There's a little bit of confusion. And at this point, I just want to turn it over to our borough engineer, Mr. Boswell, to address it.
Thanks, Mayor. Every year, you're required to issue what's referred to as a Consumer Confidence Report, CCR. It is issued in the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter of the following year. So what it does is it summarizes the prior year, 2023 in this case, and our operations, our water quality, and all of the testing, any issues any challenges that we face. Unfortunately, what happened is the letter is written based on 2023 data and not current data. So as we reported to the mayor and council back in February, our wells that had a PFA violation, 2 of our wells, 5 and 10, were placed into service in late February. 10 was placed into service, I think it was February 22nd, and well 5 was placed into service on the 23rd. And as of that time, we've been operating effectively with no detect. So it's kind of misleading because the detection limit is virtually almost the regulatory limit these days. So when we say no detect, it's really what you can even test. But the letter was written, the Consumer Confidence Report that was submitted had to reflect what was the state of the condition as of December 31st, 2023. So it effectively contained outdated information. You were reading it 4 months later. So it's a little misleading in that the report, if you didn't understand what you were reading, you could think that you were reading current conditions. On top of that, the letter in front, there's a letter that's in front, is not required as a measure of the Consumer Confidence Report. Frankly, it doesn't need to be there. So that refers back to the conditions, and it even refers back to the fact that we were completing the installation of the well treatment systems when in fact they were already completed and in service. So
the explanation that I'm trying to provide is what you were reading was something that was current as of 12/31/23, not current as of April 1st, the date it went out and was sent to you. So there will be a correcting letter that goes out that explains this, and I would assume that in the future you won't have this letter in the future because it's not part of the CCR reporting requirement. But again, that's a decision to be made by the mayor and council in future years. But the initiative to get these wells cleaned up in accordance with the ACO, the Administrative Consent Order, was successfully implemented and completed in accordance with all stipulated guidelines and schedules that were agreed to with the DEP and that were reported back to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell. Thank you. That's all I have for my report. Do I have a motion to open to public?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody wish to address the council? Not seeing any? Oh.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Nice to see you all again. Frank Rataco, 51 Lakeshore Drive. I think I might be becoming a familiar face at these meetings. I hope that's a good thing and not a bad thing. So I'm here again to sort of speak on behalf of the residents of Crystal Lake and also some residents of Mirror Lake, people that live, on the lake, across the street from the lake, around the town, folks that are on RML, are involved in the beach club. There are a lot of folks here that are begging the town to help us out with, the problems that we're having in maintaining the lake. One thing I want to say very quickly, I see a lot of familiar faces here tonight, a lot of folks that are here from the lake community, from RML, from Lakeshore Drive, from Mirror Lake. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I hope to see that a little bit more in the future. I think we need to get out to these meetings more often and speak to the mayor and council. So basically the main point that I want to make, which I've made before, is that I feel very strongly that the town has a responsibility to help with the repair of the Crystal Lake Dam. Obviously, RML is a private business, it's a private community, but the lake serves a number of very, very important purposes for this town. And obviously, it's a beautiful lake, it serves environmental purposes, recreational purposes. Many of us live on it, many of us enjoy the lake, but also it provides a key utility to the town of Oakland in providing a place for stormwater to go. Stormwater from a large percentage of this town runs into Allerman Brook and comes crashing into Crystal Lake, especially when it storms. And in the many years that I've lived on this lake, the dam has just taken a beating in every single storm. And if you walked over and looked at the dam right now, you would see huge trees on top of the spillway, jammed into where the water is supposed to flow through. These are not trees from the lake. These are trees that come crashing down Allerman Brook, coming in with all sorts of debris. We get sediment buildup, and we get flooding. And the lake is a very, very important part of stormwater management for our town. And the fact that Crystal Lake Dam needs to be repaired, and the repairs are going to be very expensive, is causing a huge amount of headache for a large number of taxpayers in this town for different reasons. For those of us that live on the lake, obviously we want the dam to be functional. For all of us in the town, as I said, it will help with stormwater. For people that are in RML that are currently managing the lake, many of them want to be de-annexed from RML, but RML needs funds to be able to do that. Right now, the place that they're looking to get those funds is by selling off Mirror Lake. And I know we have a bunch of folks here tonight who live on Mirror Lake. Hopefully we'll hear from some of them. But I don't think anyone in this town would really like to see more pieces of beautiful property in this town just get sold off to developers, get sold off to the highest bidder. It's a shame. This town has so many beautiful assets, and we can't just keep selling them off one by one every time we have a problem. So I'm really here to implore the town and also to implore the rest of my neighbors who live in this town to please speak up on behalf of the lake. Please give us a hand. I really do think the town has a responsibility. I don't think this is a private company asking for a favor. I think we do a favor to the town all the time. The lake is an important part of the infrastructure of this town, whether we like it or not. And seeing the direction that it might go if we can't find a way to fund the repair of this dam, it's very upsetting to me. I imagine it's very upsetting to many of the people in this room and many of the people in the town. So I just wanted to, thank you, Mayor, thank you, Council, for listening. We've had an initial meeting. We really would like to have a follow-up meeting to see if the town has looked into this at all and maybe considered how the town can possibly help. We have formed a small group of concerned lakefront homeowners that have volunteered to form a nonprofit homeowners association if that helps with managing the RML properties in the future. And we're trying to work with RML, we're trying to work with the town. We're doing everything we can. We're trying to drum up support at these meetings. So I really would love to hear what the town thinks. And I would really love to see some increased support from the town in repairing the Crystal Lake Dam and also helping us come to a future that keeps these lakes intact, keeps the beach club available, keeps the lakes intact for the town and for the Lakeshore community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Mike Richard. How you doing?
Very well, Mr. Pritchard.
I'm here about Mirror Lake again. And we got this thing in here where they stood there and they're talking about selling it and so forth like that. However, maybe you people don't know it, and I'll get me rehashed to the town council, which I gave to you on February 27th. But it all starts with the Ramapo River. Because you see, the Ramapo River comes under the Freshwater Pollution Control Act. That's what it comes under. It's also classified as waters of the United States. And it's a purveyor of potable water to the North Jersey Water Supply District. Having said that, I then stood there and I went and I looked at the litigation on it. And I looked at it and I started off with the U.S. Code. And it's excuse me, I got to catch my breath. It's 33 U.S. Code, 1251 et sec. It's 137 pages long. I'll get into more detail on that, but you'll be surprised what happens here. But then I looked at the litigation. The Supreme Court of the United States says that that Freshwater Pollution Act goes down to rivers, lakes, oceans, and streams. That means since the Alderman Brook flows into the Ramapo River, so does the stream from Mirror Lake flows into it. So if Mirror Lake comes under federal jurisdiction. It also comes under state jurisdiction. I'll show how that's done too. However, what the Supreme Court stood there and said on that you're able to have, it goes oceans, rivers, streams, and lakes, which includes the lake itself and also that stream going down underneath into it, includes that gully. Now, in looking at the law, I found out two states all of a sudden popped up, Michigan and New Jersey. I go, what the hell is New Jersey doing with this? Well, New Jersey has a very excellent clean water facility, and they take over a lot of the administration of it. In order to go, they had to qualify to the federal government on this, and they did. And what they did was, they stood there and they said to the DEP, you are to promulgate and enforce regulations dealing with this stuff. And what the DEP then stood there and said, well, okay, they did. And then the DEP then put this thing under administrative code, and it's 7:7-12.1, filling. You can't fill in that lake, period. Not because the state of New Jersey says you can't do it, and the federal government says you can't do it. Now, if you're going to sit there and fill in that lake, you're in a lot of trouble, big trouble, because the fines are this way, and it's in the federal code, anywhere from $2,500 to $25,000 per day. If it's 25 grand a day, in 30 days you're talking almost $750,000. So the federal government and the state of New Jersey look at this very strongly. They're very strong about it. You can't do a lot of things where they think they can. Now there's something else dealing with RML, and I'll do this, give it to them. RML changed how, the state of New Jersey changed how they collect their funds. Before they could sit there and say, well, you're part of a fee. See, let me sit there and do it like this. I'll pull it out, it's easier. New Jersey statute, 45:22A 43.4, and it's called certain assessments prohibited. What it was is, they stood there and they said, well, we can assess all you people, whatever it may be. The state of New Jersey said no. What the state of New Jersey said, unless it's on your deed or on your title, they cannot assess you anything. So that means the funding that RML is looking at is out the door. Now, they also stood there and were given, they put on things onto the person's title. They have to go take that off. They're required by this. And if they don't do that, well then, they become the defendant. The plaintiff would put that on, becomes the plaintiff, and they get to pay for the plaintiff's attorney. It's right here. So they're in a lot of trouble and they don't know it. But the bottom line is, you can't do anything with Mirror Lake, nor that gully. They talk about putting land on that. You can't, because the federal government and the state of New Jersey will come after you. You're in tough luck. Now, what's going to happen? That's not my call. But I'm just looking out for my backyard, and this is my neighbor's backyard.
Thank
But
you.
that's the bottom line.
Thank you, Mr. Pritchard.
Yeah. You're like, oh, going to get this guy out of here.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On the same
I'm
subject...
sorry, I need your name and your
Oh,
address.
I beg your pardon. My name is Mark Skanga. My address is 141 Lakeshore Drive.
Thank you.
Okay. Another Crystal Lake person. I want to add to what one of the earlier people said. Crystal Lake, besides being an important part of the waterways of Oakland, is also an important part of the, let me say, aesthetic appeal of Oakland, in that this is where people in Oakland and nearby communities can come to swim. And besides, you know, what it would do to those of us with homes in proximity, does Oakland really want to lose that valuable asset of this is where we go to swim. This is what makes our town. So I want to add to imploring and say, gee whiz, we need help here. And I also want to point out that in my personal opinion, I don't know how anybody else feels about it, the current RML was voted in because of the confusion around who owed money. You know, I'm sure everyone is familiar by now that the last RML board served, I don't know the exact number, some 1,500 people that didn't know they were at one time part of this thing. Those people don't want to be part of it. This is all understandable, but now we have a situation where those of us, myself for one, I paid over $1,200 this year in fees to RML. And then I'm being told that the folks over there who are paying $40 to $60 in fees to RML have the same vote that I do. Gee whiz, that doesn't really seem equitable, and you know, the whole thing is a mess, no doubt about that, but I think that we have something so special in this town, it would really be a shame and a sin to let this go by without, you know, giving it a college try.
Thank you, Mr. Skanko.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Liz Carletta. I live at 161 Lakeshore Drive. I was here a few meetings back also to speak about this matter. And before I forget to say this, Frank, I appreciate you saying this because, thanks. I was, you know, I'm having some allergies. I'm not sure how I'm going to get through tonight, you know, my 3 minutes. But I implore everyone who is here tonight, because I do see a lot of faces that I recognize, if you're here to support the town and the mayor and council in getting involved in taking charge of the lakes, the dams, the waterways in some way, please speak up. Even if you just come say your name and address and say what you support and then sit down, you don't have to be as eloquent as some of these other speakers tonight. I'll lower that bar for you right now. But what I wanted to say again, and Frank said this, but I'm just here because I was afraid no one else was going to stand up. And a lot of us are here for this reason. And you know, and what Mark just said, and thank you for your information, which I knew nothing about. I really appreciate that. But you know, I moved onto Crystal Lake. I'm a lakefront homeowner in 2015, and in less than 10 years, my RML dues went from under $400 a year to, I think it's like $1,300 a year or something. It's kind of ridiculous. But the point, and you're not here to control RML, and I understand that as well. But what you do have control over is helping all of the constituents of this town and taking responsibility for this public utility that the town of Oakland, I realize not all of you have been mayor and council for all of this time, but the town of Oakland and the mayor and council and everything that goes with it has been using this as a free public utility since the beginning. I think it was Frank who mentioned all the trees coming in the lake. I live directly opposite of Alderman Brook that comes in the lake. Trees end up in my yard. They're not my trees. They're not even from lakefront homeowners. They're all the water that comes off of 287. There's no reason not to involve the county, the state, etc. in this. It's a water runoff issue. Oakland is known for flooding, and it does come across my yard, across the street, into the Ramapo River, and affects downstream as well. It's not fair for 1,500 households, and fewer by the day, to really be managing Oakland's storm water management. And I really want to know, I appreciate the first meeting we had. We haven't had a second. What you're going to do to get involved in this. And everyone else, please, if you're here, step up and support it.
Thank you, Ms. Carletta.
Okay. Trudy Derbyshire, 181 Lakeshore Drive. And I'm here to, you were talking earlier about beautifying Oakland, and we're going to have a new downtown and everything's beautiful. Crystal Lake is beautiful. It's a beautiful part of Oakland. It's something that you can boast about, and you want people to come into our town. This is a great way to get people into the town. Yes, we need help, and I truly hope that the town will come in and take control. RML will ruin us. You know, they're out to destroy us, let's be honest. And we need you, so hopefully you can help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Joseph Fiorio, 24 Hiawatha Boulevard. I am one of the residents who live directly on Mirror Lake. There are so many issues. It's hard to unpack it all, but at the beginning, RML came and thought that they can get $40 from a lot of people and it would solve all their money problems. They should have thought that one day there was going to be a backlash. This is the backlash. There are probably about, in my estimation, I don't know who they are, but probably less than 30 people who really hold on to, I want to get everybody to pay. There are probably hundreds of people who said, hey, this wasn't right, it serves them right. And then there are people like me who are a little bit more fair about it. I was with the people who did not want to pay at the beginning, even though I was on the lake. Nobody ever asked me to pay a due. I know some people will say I was asked to pay a due that I lived on the lake, but nobody ever asked me to pay a due. I lived in this town for 8, 9, 10 years before they started requiring dues. And there's something wrong with that. There should be there's an inherent fairness that is completely absent in this case. I live on the lake. I think I'm one of the people that should be paying for it. If somebody doesn't live on the lake, and for 70 years nobody has paid a due, I understand why they don't want to pay for it. But we're going into a destruction mode where all RML is thinking, I don't want to pay $100 or whatever their fees are. I am going to destroy the lakes, destroy everything, so I don't have to pay money. It was bad enough when somebody stuck their hand in a pocket. It's like stealing. Now it's like, here's the revenge, and I'm chasing you down with an axe. I'm going to take everything that you love away from you. That is what's going on. We need to have some involvement with the government and RML and the homeowners who love this lake, and we need to come to a reasonable solution. We can quote all the laws that we want. How are the laws enforced? How are the judge interpreting the laws? All these things have not gone the way anybody would have expected in this case. We need cooler heads to come to the table and come to a reasonable agreement. And I don't know if that can be done with RML. I've talked with their president. He seems like a reasonable person when I talk to him. You leave him, and all of a sudden, a week later, the words coming out of his mouth and the decisions that he's making are completely different than what you talked about just a week early. I thought we had a reasonable solution that we could somehow fulfill all these wants that we have. We thought we could do something to make a little bit of money to pay for the dam repairs and make this solvent to let everybody out. And then only the people who wanted to be in and the people on the lakes would be left. And they have not been willing to work in good faith with anybody on the lakes to do that. And we need support from somebody. And the final thing, we talked a lot about the laws and a lot about the environment. One of the things that has come to my attention is there is a relatively new environmental item in New Jersey about blue heron and their habitats. I can show you, this is a picture from Sunday. This is a blue heron. This is on my neighbor's property. I can show you a picture from the prior Thursday on my property. I can show you pictures from last year and the year before and the year before. I even have the most interesting video. You never would believe it. These things can even hunt chipmunks and eat chipmunks. Mirror Lake, this bird was more or less standing at the edge of the lake, and it's looking for fish. And when it finds fish, it dives in, it eats it, it flies away. I can tell you, if I were to stand out there every day of the week, I would probably see it 3 or 4 times a week. Just by happenstance, I look out my backyard and there it is. We have laws to protect this. It's not going to have a supply of fish if there isn't a lake. There's no lake unless that dam remains, and if somebody starts filling it in, it's not going to have the food that it needs. This is all part of it, the DEP. The DEP is also responsible for the waterways. I don't know where they stand with the waterways and what they intend to do to protect it. It's very unclear to me. But I think there are plenty of things that have been discussed tonight that there could be extra protection put on the lake. Even though we don't want it sold and we don't want it to fall into other hands other than the homeowner, if something did happen, there should be some sort of protection on this lake, even beyond that. We should essentially say, we have lakes, we have streams, we have waterways. Let's do something to protect it, keep the character of the town intact. So that's what I want to impart with you. I'm not sure if anybody even realized that these that blue herons were on Mirror Lake, and I'd be happy to provide you with any photographic evidence and testimony to that effect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Hi, I'm Greg Simon. I'm on 99 Lakeshore Drive. In addition to the blue herons, we have bald eagles. There is a family of bald eagles on the lake. Obviously, without the rich diversity of fish in the lake, these eagles would go elsewhere. So I just think that's a very special thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Adam Elkin, 147 Lakeshore Drive.
Can you repeat your name? Sorry.
Adam Elkin, 147 Lakeshore Drive. It's good to see you all again. I'm just building on what everybody said tonight. There's a trillion reasons why this lake is important to Oakland and the people that live here. I think we could all acknowledge that the people that have been taking care of the lakes and the dams for all of these years have been doing this town a tremendous service. And over the last 20 years, my taxes have doubled.
My fees on the lake have doubled. None of that money has gone to that infrastructure, not a single dime. Meanwhile, throughout the years, the town continues to allow development along the waterway, collects taxes from residents who are developing, commercial developments, gas stations, cleaners. All that water is going into that lake. Let's talk about something about that lake. It is resilient as heck. That lake has natural aquifers. That water is cleaner than any water you'll find anywhere in Bergen County. Anywhere. It's a miracle, given what goes into that lake, what it looks like today. Clearly, over the past, that lake and the dams and the waterways have been a critical part of the town's stormwater management plan. What does that stormwater management plan look like now? Where do those waterways sit within that plan? Where does our lake sit within that plan? Where does that dam sit within that plan? And unless I'm blind, it looks to be smack dab in the middle of it all. And as such, do your part and help us. It's a small group of people, literally, that have been holding this thing up for all these years. You see the development. You see what's happening to it. You see the garbage on the highway every day. That's all coming in. We need your help. We're doing our part. We want to keep it. We're not looking to fight with anybody. We just want to make it right and be able to sleep at night knowing with comfort our properties are safe, the ecology is safe, the water is safe. That's what everybody wants to get done. And yes, I understand it's private property, but it's all of that water that you're sending down there that's hitting our private property and damaging our private property. It's an encumbered waterway. It's encumbered by a privately owned encumberment that's being damaged over and over again. We're not asking for you to come in and do everything. We're asking for help. We're asking for some runway. We're asking for you to acknowledge it's a part of your plan, that it's a part of the town utility, that it has a viable purpose, not just for a utility, but for recreation, for our ecology, for its natural reserves, everything we're talking about tonight. The town has never once acknowledged, we want this, we think it's important, we think it's beautiful for all of these reasons too. The town has simply said, it's a private matter. That's really hard to hear for somebody that's been paying their taxes like everybody else all these years, that's been paying that money to make sure these dams and waterways are working after all these years, just to find out that, hey, sorry, we didn't fix any of it, we're not going to fix any of it, the town's not interested, it's all private, you're one of a few, you're SOL. Well, that doesn't do, and it shouldn't stand for the town, and that's not the kind of town I want to live in, frankly. And when I talk to others, it's not the kind of town they want to live in, and this will really be a smear on this town if we allow Mirror Lake to go down the way it's going down, and if that follows with any disruption of Crystal Lake. I understand the town may have limitations into what it can do, say, help with, but at least stand up and say, this is important for the town. We care about it. We care and we want to help. And we don't want this to go away. Because right now we don't even have that assurance. And we need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anybody else?
Hello, Chris Rosman, 127 Lakeshore. Joined by my wife, I have 3 kids, second generation. My family's been here since the mid-90s. And seeing the ceremony earlier with all the kids and all the children, and knowing that's the fabric of this town, I think that's the only thing we forgot to bring up is just how special this lake is for the kids. Especially at some of the worst times like COVID. We had fantastic people dedicate their talents to make sure that people were able to reconnect. It's something so key and vital. And so in a world where it seems like everything that we love and cherish is shrinking in front of us, this is an easy one. You have so many people that are willing to help and do the right thing, and no one's asking for a favor. We just want to continue to give these kids an amazing town to grow up in. We have this gigantic trampoline in our backyard, and any given day there might be 15 different kids who some we know, some we don't, but they're laughing, they're smiling, they're not worried about the day-to-day, they're actually being kids. So we appeal to all of you. I'm so grateful to everybody here that's speaking up on behalf of this issue because it's near and dear to all of our hearts. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Evans at 141 Lakeshore Drive. I am a board officer with the Crystal Lake Community Beach Club, and I'm also a marketing and communications officer with the Oakland Chamber of Commerce. We have, as everyone has said, blue heron on our lake. I actually have video of 2 blue heron, male and female. They mate on our lakes. The eagles are mating on our lakes. We have fish who are spawning, depositing their eggs in the brook that leads into Crystal Lake. All we want is a meeting to discuss what possibilities we can work out together. Crystal Lake Community Beach, Crystal Lake, lakefront homeowners, and Mirror Lake. Please.
Anybody else? Not seeing any. Do I have a motion? Oh, one more?
My name is Tom Lavasi. I live right across the street from Mirror Lake. And
What's your address?
14 Seminole Avenue. I'm just here to support the preservation of Mirror Lake. I live right across the street from it. It's beautiful. My kids played hockey on it, and kids continue to play hockey every winter. And it's a beautiful lake, and I hate to see it filled in. And whatever, the plans are, put houses or condos, or I would hate to see that. I pay a lot of money in taxes. I've been here since 1985, and I love that lake.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Carrie Matthews, 29 Calumet Avenue. I live on Mirror Lake. And I'm just here, like the rest of the residents here, to say that we love these lakes. It's a wonderful part of our town. It's one of the reasons why I moved to this town 28 years ago. We don't want to see it go away, and we're really asking the town to help us out, sit down with us, talk to us, and see what we can get accomplished. All right, thank you so much.
Andrei Klinchik, 21 Calumet Avenue.
I'm sorry, your name, I didn't hear.
Andrei Klinchik, 21 Calumet Avenue. Same for me. The only reason we bought a house because of the lake. And despite my parents were saying we crazy that we did it, but that was a sentimental, emotional decision that we did it. We rebuilt it. They almost doubled our taxes. They tripled our dues for the RML. We keep paying it. I don't mind because it's beautiful, because my kids growing here. I want the nature, for not only for my kids but for all the town residents. I've been observing since this issue happened. I've been observing for the past few months the other kids that come. I'm not sure whether they are part of RML or not, but the ones that fishing, the ones that bringing little strollers with parents, they not lakefront owners, because I know most of them. And all the value that the lakes give, I think is very important for town to do something about it. Plus, hypothetically, if somebody buys this lake, they start development, there are going to be, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of lawsuits because of all the reasons that previously people mentioned. And what's then going to happen? They're going to drain it, they're going to start something, and then the amount of water that goes there is like the way how it spills out recently. Again, I noticed a lot more things since all of these issues happened. So I really ask you to do something and step in and help out, because I think it brings enormous value to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Perhaps you'll let me speak again. My name's Liz Carletta, because I do own 2 homes in Oakland. So 14 Rockaway Ave, which I moved to in 2011 because of the lake. So thank you for saying that, because I was walking distance to this awesome lake. And then when something opened up on the lake, I jumped on it. So I was just thinking too, the town has like an open space fund, right? So if Mirror Lake has to be for sale, or it is already for sale from my understanding, perhaps the town could use some of its open space fund to purchase Mirror Lake and officially and truly make it a part of their town, of our town. And I know I've been reading, I don't follow it very closely, so I don't want to misspeak, but a lot of grants have been received for infrastructure, for the bridges and things like that. Perhaps there's some money in some of those grants to fund dam infrastructure as well. I don't know if it falls under the same thing or not, but if someone has to buy Mirror Lake, why not the Township of Oakland, or Borough of Oakland rather, with some open space fund, and just keep it just as it is. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, right now we have a presentation from our planner and Mr. Giblin. This is probably one of everybody's talking about what's going on in the town and the character. This has to do with affordable housing phase 4 and the new law that was passed and the governor signed, I believe, a couple weeks ago. This will have a profound effect on town, so we asked our planner to come up here and give us a presentation, not only for the governing body, but the residents of Oakland. And with that, Ms. Ryder, you and Mr. Giblin you're up.
You have to press the button. And then I said you give it a minute, you press the button. Yeah.
Do we need a 5-minute break?
No.
We're good?
You press the button. Just give it a minute, so it takes a minute. There we go.
Great, got it?
It's coming, it comes, it takes a minute, but then when that one turns on, the other ones all turn off. What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
Oh, when one turns on, the other one turns off. There you go, there you go.
Okay.
Why is that one not on there?
I don't know what, you keep pressing
I didn't
buttons.
press any buttons.
Well, while you guys are working on the technology, Mr. Gilson, would you just kind of set us up with, give us an overview of what affordable housing in New Jersey?
Sure, so the court mandated affordable housing began in the 1980s under the Mount Laurel 1 decision. Since then, we've had 3 additional Mount Laurel decisions, including Mount Laurel 4, which was in 2015, which is the one that everyone seems most familiar with these days, which took basically declared COA inactive, returned the affordable housing obligation to the courts. Most towns chose to file a declaratory judgment against themselves. The courts were determining the numbers for what was the 3rd round of obligations. We're now moving on to the 4th round of obligations, and the Democrats, with no Republican votes, passed a bill that will allow the state to simply impose a number upon us, which our professionals will get in, and tell us how many units we have, and we'll have a very short period of time to challenge that number. And it's taking it out of the courts and putting it into this unelected, appointed by Governor Murphy body that will be determining our obligation going forward.
There, it's coming down.
Thank you, Ms. Gilson.
Okay.
Are we ready with the technology?
I think so.
I think so. We
All right.
think so. So if I have this screen on and this screen on, it means that people can still see at
Yes.
home, correct?
Mhm.
And then the public just has to use this, and you have that.
Okay.
Okay.
Make it work. Yep.
We'll make it work. 2 out of, what's the expression? 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? So thank you for the introduction and for the background information from the attorney. I believe most of you know me, but in case you don't, I'm Caroline Ryder. I'm the Borough Planner with T&M Associates, and this is
Brian Giblin, I'm your Affordable Housing Counsel.
So, as your borough attorney indicated, we're here tonight to talk about the new affordable housing legislation, which, so the bill was originally introduced in January. Actually, there was a bill introduced at the end of 2023 that did not move forward. Then there was a similar but slightly changed bill introduced on January 9th, passed both houses March 18th, and signed by the governor on March 20th. So that everyone's clear, this was fast-tracked through the legislature.
It's interrupting you, right? What's going on behind you?
It's okay.
It's
It's okay. So a couple of key points is that it does completely abolish COA, the Council on Affordable Housing. It does change the way that provides municipalities with certain responsibilities with affordable housing, and it also establishes and funds a dispute resolution fund. This slide shows some differences between what we'll call the old legislation or the old regulations and this new legislation. And I just want to step back for a minute just to make sure and add on to a little bit of some of the background information that your attorney did advise you of, and just talk a little bit about affordable housing very briefly. Affordable housing, we all know it, I'm sure you all know it, as the requirements of via the round, what you need to zone for or build. Your affordable housing component up until this point had 3 components. Your obligation had 3 components. What's called present need, which is often referred to as your rehabilitation obligation. Prior round, which was rounds 1 and 2 combined. And round 3, which is what we're in at this moment. Round 4 actually officially begins in July of 2025. However, this legislation is starting things a bit early. Once we get to the timeline, you'll see theoretically everything should be done in advance of the start of 2025. So, and as we're going to go through tonight, we'll talk about some of the changes that have been made. And I also want to just highlight the fact that, as I indicated, this bill was fast-tracked. It was literally just signed by the governor on the 20th of March, not even 4 weeks. So this is all very new for all of us, and everyone's just trying to digest it. There are going to be a series of informational sessions for attorneys and for planners and for other professionals starting in the next month or so. So I really commend the borough for jumping on this so quickly, because as we're going to see things with this legislation, things are moving very quickly, and getting in front of it is, I think, the best way to approach it. So some couple of key changes, there we go, have to do with the cap on age-restricted, or what we might call senior units, actually increases from 25 to 30%. The way that bonus credits are handled is going to be changing, and I have some slides on that later on. But we have always been allowed, and will continue to be allowed, to meet 25% of your obligation number with a bonus. However, the bonus credit that, in my professional opinion, was most relied upon, which was the rental bonus credit, is no longer part of the legislation. So there are other bonus credits that we will have to seek to maximize in order to have the full opportunity of reaching that 25% goal. Just as your attorney indicated, the way that the obligations will be calculated is slightly different, and relies on a methodology established by a case known as the Jacobson case. Unmet need, when we talk about the vacant land adjustment, that's a little bit different as well. This being a Highlands town, we're going to have to be addressing a couple of extra things because of the Highlands responsibilities. And the vacant land adjustment is also, although still permitted, it's changing a little bit with respect to densities and how that is calculated. This is a time frame of what I'm calling, the slide is entitled Key Dates in New Legislation. These are important dates for the borough, and the separation is not meant to be fancy, it's actually proportional based on what needs to be done. There are a couple of dates that are not on this slide. The dates on this slide have to do with dealing with your obligation and dealing with plan adoption, etc. But there are a couple of dates not on this slide, but I think your administrator is going to be very interested in them. Because by June 18th, 2024, although not on this slide, is a deadline to submit accounting of all non-residential development fees collected. That means the trust fund fees, non-residential, have to be accounted for and provided the listing of it by June. By September is the deadline to submit accounting of residential development fees. Again, not on this slide, but these are more internal borough responsibilities. Similarly, on December 16th is a deadline to submit a unit and program monitoring report to the DCA, the Department of Community Affairs. That's just a listing of your affordable housing units that are built. What is on this slide has to do with dates having to do with your obligation, calculating of your obligation, plan, and the plan that is put forth by the borough. So the first date is March 20th, the legislation was signed into law. By October 20th, DCA is responsible for providing the affordable housing obligations, the fair share obligations, and the methodology to each municipality. By January 31st is the deadline for the municipality to adopt a binding resolution committing to the obligation, either the one put forth by DCA or the borough can come forth with its own obligation. I will tell you that's really not a lot of time at all. DCA is has a very significant responsibility put on it, and we're going to have some slides about, very general slides about how the obligations are calculated in a minute. So January 31st, that's a very important date. Should the borough not meet that date, there is language in the legislation about losing the protection from exclusionary zoning litigation.
Say that again?
Should the borough not meet the date of January 31st, the legislation does reference the fact that that could be open to exclusionary zoning litigation.
Builder's
no
remedy
longer,
laws.
no longer protected.
Oh, builder's remedy.
So-
The January 31st date. Does everyone understand that?
Yes.
May I ask a question, Mr. Giblin? And I know this is new for all of us.
Sure.
Brian, in your experience, I mean, that's a very aggressive timeline for the DCA to meet across the state. Would you agree?
It is, and frankly, I have serious doubts that they're going to meet it. And it's also, if you look at the timeline for the municipality, the end of January, a lot of things happen in municipalities in December and January, including, swearing in new council people sometimes, a changeover in administration.
Right.
A lot of things happen. It's going to be tough to meet that, even if we get the number on October 20th.
Is there anything in the legislation that, outside of the fact that we can submit our own obligation, is there anything to indicate that there's going to, if these deadlines could be extended, if DCA, for example, only does half of the state in that time period?
We don't know the answer to
You're
that.
right, I didn't think we did, but I can hear other people asking.
The legislation is, in my opinion, is silent with respect to what happens to DCA if it doesn't meet its deadline.
Okay.
It's not silent with respect to if the municipalities don't meet their deadline,
Right.
as we just indicated.
Right.
So we need to move forward as if DCA is going to meet the deadline, in my opinion.
And have our own numbers prepared, otherwise.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
So January 31st is the binding resolution that needs to be adopted. February 28th, there's a full, 28 days, is should there be an interested party that wants to challenge the obligation that's contained within the municipality's binding resolution. So there's 28 days for an interested party. I would say an interested party might be the Fair Share Housing Center or a developer. So they have 28 days to challenge it. If there is no challenge, let's say come back.
No, you gotta press it again. No, wait a second.
Now give it a minute. Okay, so I can talk. So if there is no challenge, there we go. If there is no challenge, then by March 31st, your obligation is established. Then if there is then there's a process if there's a challenge. However, the next important date, and this is really for your planning board, the planning board needs to prepare and adopt a housing element and fair share plan by June 30th, 2025. That's another very important date. Failure to meet that date, again, puts the municipality at risk for loss of its immunity and protection against exclusionary zoning type litigation. And just as a reminder, the housing element and fair share plan, the housing element is a master planning document. It's a required part of your master plan that is adopted by the planning board at a public meeting with public notice. So that's another very important date, is June 30th. Should there be an interested party that wants to then challenge your housing element, they have a couple months to do it until August 31st. Then all the challenges are going to be settled by the end of the year of 2025, and then there's a few months to adopt the ordinances to implement any changes that are within your housing element. For example, should there be an area that's going to be considered for an overlay zone or any type of rezoning, those ordinances would need to then be adopted by March 15th of 2026. So this is sort of the time frame that the municipalities, all municipalities, not just you, but all municipalities that are going to be participating in this process will be following and looking to meet all these deadlines. Okay. So, calculation of your prospective need or your affordable housing obligation. The slide is supposed to show the different, quite often a municipality, I have a client will say to me, look at this affordable housing number. It's like they don't even know Oakland or whatever town they're from. And I just want to make it very clear that affordable housing obligations do not start at the municipal level. They start, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. They start at the state level, and they're filtered down to the region, and then what's called factors are applied, and then they're filtered down to the municipal level. So whatever the obligation ends up being, if you look at it and say, boy, it's like they don't know Oakland, it is entirely possible that it's because it comes down from your region. I just want to make that clear. So I have no intention of going through the entire process of this. These slides will very, very much provide an overview of the calculation process. And my point is to show it and that it's a whole process, is what I'm trying to say. So you calculate your regional need. You look at household changes within the region between the last two federal census, and you divide by 2.5. That's your regional need. Then it's factored down to the municipal level. And there's 3 factors, according to the legislation. There's a non-residential valuation factor, an income capacity factor, and a land capacity factor. And again, this is a very brief overview. The non-residential valuation factor has to do with assessed valuation and the changes in that level. And that's just basically, it's detailed on the slide, but I think that's a very brief overview. The income capacity has to do with median household income and how that's calculated. The land capacity factor, this is the one that I'd like to talk about a little bit more. So the land capacity has to do with an estimate made of developable land in the municipality, and then there's a factor applied and weighting factors. Within this legislation, it does actually recognize the state planning areas and assign various factors to each area, which is actually sort of interesting because there is a new state plan being prepared right now, so I'm unsure if that's going to change and how that would change it. The Highlands areas also have their own weighting factors, and then there's an estimate, a municipal estimate that's factored by a regional estimate. My point in bringing this up is this is something to keep in mind, is that those of us who've had experience with COA in the past and how land capacity or developable land was looked at, is it was looked at via mapping of what was called a land cover. And vacant land, and sometimes you'd look at the towns and say, boy, there's so much vacant land here. There's really not this much vacant land, but it's factored in as if there's a lot. The way that the land cover mapping works, or has worked in the past, unfortunately, is it would show things like cemeteries and the Garden State Parkway as vacant land. So, and I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm not saying that to be flippant, is what I was going to say. That is actually something I dealt with for a client of mine in the past. So we have to be very cognizant. That's something we can really truly look at, is your land capacity, your vacant land, what's a parkland, what's where within the Highlands, et cetera, as we go forward in this process.
So,
And this,
sorry, so would 287 be considered vacant land?
well, it shouldn't be, but if it could have come up in your mapping, that's something we're gonna have to look for. So, and again, this is just a little map of Oakland and the land cover map as it exists today. So these 3 factors, the non-residential valuation, the income, which is a tax assessment information, the income capacity, which is census data, and also there's also building permit information in there as well, and the land capacity factor, which is a consideration of vacant land, is all averaged and factored into the regional need. My point in telling you all this is I want to show you that the calculation of the obligations is a complicated situation that, again, always starts with the state, down to the region, down to the municipality. It sort of filters down, if you will. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that process.
Quick question, Brian, for both of you. So as that calculation, how does that, our current zoning situation, just as for the residents, how does our current zoning, whether it's commercial, whether it's, zone one single family, how does that, in our overlay plan, how does the current plan fit into that calculation?
So I don't believe with respect to looking at the land capacity factor that zoning or your master planning documents will be considered. I believe they're going to take some sort of mapping that the state has available and look at what is considered to be land use or land cover. They're not going to look at your zoning map and make a determination with respect to what's commercial and what's residential.
I think the only reason that your zoning ordinances are going to come into play is they're going to look at them, particularly the overlay zones and the things that we did in round 3, and if you haven't had development yet, they're going to say, well, you know what, that's not a realistic development potential there. So it could hurt us. I don't think it's going to help us.
And that's accurate. That's what my point was, actually more in terms of determination of your obligation. I don't think that your zoning map is going to be looked at.
Right.
But thankfully, we don't have what some towns has, is they've been like rezoning golf courses with 50-year waits to get in as affordable housing for the last 3 rounds, and now they're saying, okay, you can't keep doing that. But we don't really have any situations akin to that in Oakland, so I don't think that'll be as big of a problem for us.
I think that's good to hear. So then, once a municipality has its obligation, there is a process it can go through. It's called the vacant land adjustment process. This has been around for all of the COA rules. Oakland did utilize the vacant land adjustment process in its round 3 plan. Basically, the vacant land adjustment is an understanding by the town, or an understanding by all the parties, that Oakland does not have enough land for which to build or to zone for its affordable housing. Therefore, you go through a process. It was previously laid out in the round 2 and other COA rules of how you calculate or go through or calculate what was called an RDP, a regional development potential. So, and basically what that amounts to is a study of vacant land as well as land that has buildings on it but is not being utilized to its capacity. And then there's a process. You exclude certain properties, parkland, contiguous land that could accommodate 5 units, National Register properties, preserved farmland, active recreation, environmentally sensitive land such as, properties within the highlands, et cetera. You go through this process, you come up with a final number, and then there you apply a density factor, and there's a whole process that you go through based on the round 2, based on the prior rules, and you come up with what's called an obligation, an RDP. The difference between your obligation and your RDP was what's known as the unmet need. One of the big changes with this legislation is with respect to the unmet need, in that the first 25% of your unmet need must be, your plan must provide zoning or redevelopment plan that will address your first 25% of your unmet need, unit for unit, with specific properties identified. So in the past, again, you had the full obligation, you had the vacant land adjustment, which would lower it somewhat to an RDP, and then the difference was the unmet need. And with the unmet need, what you would do is adopt an overlay zone or something similar, and while it was not a one-for-one zoning situation, you provide overlay zones that provided an opportunity for the potential for a future affordable housing should it arise. As your council just mentioned, the golf courses, many towns have done these type of overlay zones over the golf courses. It's a little bit different now in that your first 25% has to be very specifically addressed within your plan. And that's a big change and something that we're all going to have to talk about.
And that's a one-for-one?
Yes. The durational adjustment, of course, Oakland also had what's called the durational adjustment within its last plan. It's a deferral of your obligation based on the lack of the infrastructure. While not specifically addressed in the new legislation, the legislation does permit any kind of adjustment or any other rules that were within the COA rules to continue unless it's so changed by the legislation. So we foresee that the durational adjustment would continue, of course, depending, assuming that Oakland still was eligible for that. So what are our, in other words, then you finally get your numbers down, you think, okay, what do I do to meet affordable housing requirements? How do I plan for this? What kind of options are there? So the first one is what's called inclusionary zoning, and that's probably the one that many of you are very familiar with. That's where you zone property or a certain zone district at a higher, quite often at a higher density, and then that would, a certain percentage, either 15 or 20% of the total units need to be what's called set aside for affordable housing. So that's inclusionary. It includes both market rate units and affordable units. A 100% affordable development is exactly what it sounds like. It's 100% affordable. Quite often these are municipally sponsored. A municipality may work with a non-for-profit or another interested group in terms of developing a 100% affordable development. There's an age-restricted type of development that can be affordable, and 30% of your obligation can be met through age-restricted units. Special needs, that's sometimes referred to as supportive housing, sometimes referred to as a group home, and I do know that you've met some of your obligation with those types of units. You have sale, you have rental units, obviously. Veterans preference, I am seeing that in some of the towns that I work in now. 50% of the units in one project can be what's called veterans preference. So it's not actually required to be for veterans, but they get a preference based on the way that the lists and the lottery process works. Transitional housing is another option for through the legislation. Bonus credits. I touched on this a little bit before. We are able to claim 25% of our obligation with bonus credits. There is a limitation with how many credits you can take for the age-restricted units. The rental bonus credit, which many towns relied upon, is no longer available with this legislation. What types of units can achieve bonus credits? Supportive and special needs housing units, and market to affordable. That means that there's a unit that is presently serving, it's not deed restricted, it's for a market rate, it's a market rate using unit that is then transferred and made into an affordable housing unit. There is a deed restriction placed on it for a certain period of time, and then it, like all other affordable housing units, goes through a lottery process and is vetted and affirmatively marketed. And then units in a municipally sponsored 100% affordable housing development also are eligible for the one-for-one bonus credit.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
So what about senior housing? It sounds like we're not going to get credit for that.
You're able to get credit. You're able to actually fulfill 30% of your obligation with age-restricted affordable units as opposed to 25. You just don't. Your bonus credits are more limited for the senior units. So what I'm talking about now is the bonus credits. But yes, you're correct, Mayor. You can have senior credits or age-restricted credits for a certain percentage of your obligation.
Okay, thank you.
So half units of bonus credits there's several listed. Again, working with a non-for-profit if you're close to transit. Age-restricted to a certain limit, redevelopment of retail, office, or commercial space. And then basically, quite often if there's any type of limitation that's exceeded, for example, if you have a certain number of if you exceed the number of very low income units, you're eligible for a bonus. Or if you exceed the required number of 3-bedroom affordable units, you're eligible for the bonus. So my point in showing these is that, again, we're just gonna have to try, if we want to try to achieve our maximum bonus credits, we'll have to just make ourselves aware of all of these. So as I indicated earlier, there's a dispute process, and this legislation establishes what's called a dispute resolution program. This details the members. It's going to be selected from current, retired, or recalled Superior Court judges. And there's a process for establishing how the resolution program is set up. They resolve disputes, render determinations. They're supposed to work with the municipalities, facilitate communication between anyone involved in the dispute and the municipality. And if you recall, I indicated there were places within the time frame where if there was an entity that was going to dispute your obligation, they had a time frame to do that. And then if there was going to be a dispute raised regarding your housing element, that there was a time frame for that too. So this is the group that works with the towns and the entity and whomever puts forth the dispute or the challenge. This just talks a little bit more about the dispute resolution program, how and what they're supposed to be doing, the procedures they're going to be following. Talk a little bit about the Highlands. So with respect to the Highlands, there will be when there's the land capacity factor calculated, there will be consideration given to those properties within the Highlands. Should there be, a new residential development, there is supposed to be an affordable housing set aside within the Highlands as well. Housing elements are supposed to include certain analyses when you have a Highlands municipality, consideration of the build-out report, consideration of any opportunities for redevelopment of developed properties, as well as any other 100% affordable developments. So the 100% affordable developments, I just want to make clear, some towns, they're looked at, some towns do look upon them differently in a different eye, because it's unlike inclusionary zoning. In inclusionary zoning, in an inclusionary development, the affordable units are what's called the set aside. They're the smaller portion, 15 or 20% of the total development. A 100% affordable development is just that. It's all affordable units. The issue is with that is that quite often the town is involved in either donating land, providing money from its trust fund, and also is potentially helping out should there not be sufficient funding to cover the cost of the development.
Is that something new?
No, this has been an option all along.
100% affordable housing?
Yes, 100% affordable. I have a town in, well, actually, this is public record. Closter has a development going in one of its old schools known as the Village School. It's going to be 35 units, I believe, affordable housing, and that's a round 3 project. We're still working with a developer and et cetera on that one. But you have to understand with that, the municipality has to agree to cover shortfalls should there not be funding or financing available. And quite often, as I indicated, the municipality can either A, donate land, B, give money from its trust fund, and or C, provide other financial assistance. So that has some benefits in that you meet your obligation in one area without the market rate units. However, there is a cost to it, a financial cost. So there's a weighing of pros and cons with
That's not widely used throughout the state, is it?
I think so.
Is that
I think it's becoming more.
ground on 112 unit one like last week?
Yeah.
112 unit, all affordable.
We did one in Verona about 4 years ago, 95 units, and we're just doing the finishing touches on 120 units in Paramus, all 100% affordable. That's a great way to get a lot of credits.
Yeah.
If there's a perfect spot for it, really.
But there's a caveat there, which...
There can be a cost to, I don't know what happened in Paramus, in the other towns, but quite often, like I said, there is.
Well, both towns donated the land.
They donate the land.
They did, okay. That's one reason why they could do that.
Yeah.
And Brian, in those situations, the developers tend to be very cooperative with the town. I know you've had experience with that.
Absolutely, and there's always, tax credit financing has to be involved in it, and pilots, and the town is involved in it for the whole process. But again, it's a way to get a lot of credits when, when you have a big obligation.
And if you locate the property in the appropriate location or other, or have other bedroom distributions, you're also able to get certain bonus credits, so that you can help to achieve even more of your obligation. But as we indicated, there is a financial component to it. And with respect to the tax, the tax credits, there are the 4% and the 9%. The 9% are competitive, the 4% are not. They will not cover the whole cost. So the town has to agree to quite often, cover what is not covered. So I just want to make that clear. So everything, it's a weighing factor. It's right. It's a juggling act, so to speak.
And this is all coming from the top down.
Well, this is yes, in terms of the legislation for round 4, these types of things, inclusionary zoning, 100% affordable developments, these have been around, as Brian and I indicated, through the past past years of the COA rules. But yes, this is a state requirement. Spoke a little bit about the Highlands. So next steps. What should we do? So first of all, as I indicated, I think that it's a great start to have this discussion tonight, to get, to try and make everybody aware, both on the council and whomever is here and whomever is watching at home, that this is legislation that was adopted by the legislature, your state legislature. It was signed by your governor, and then now the municipalities have a responsibility to to follow the regulations and to meet the deadlines that we talked about. It's an aggressive time frame, and that's why it is great that you're starting now. So some of the things that we've been starting to do is we've been reviewing prior vacant land lists, making sure those are accurate, looking at your parkland, making sure everything is in your open space plan or on the ROSI, which is the state list, the recreation and open space inventory that DEP keeps, or that you're supposed to submit to DEP. So making sure everything that that all your open space and your parkland is appropriately listed in the ROSI and appropriately contained within your master plan.
Didn't you say something in your presentation about going back to 1997?
That's for certain properties, yes, that certain municipal properties do go back to 97, but properties that open space can be deducted from your calculation of your affordable housing obligation. Checking the obligations, of course, calculated by DCA, which are coming in October, and basis for potential dispute of the DCA obligation, as we had discussed, looking in particular at the land capacity analysis, because the other factors that go into the obligation, in my opinion, they're census data, building permit data, tax assessment data. That's data, that's facts. The land capacity is going to look at what is vacant land and what isn't vacant land, and I think that that's an area that we definitely should be following up on. As well as I indicated, looking through your vacant land list that was done, we utilized in preparation of your round 3 plan to see what is still vacant, and having discussions about what the town, what the town thinks is its best steps moving forward, and recognizing that this responsibility is coming, and what would be the best steps and places and mechanisms for addressing it.
Brian, you're an expert in this. Just for the public's edification, it's a whole group of people that don't know about, Matt alluded to it, round 1, round 2, Mount Laurel 1, Mount 1. Could you just give us a brief synopsis of the public policy, how this developed, how this came out of, how it was born? And I've heard talk throughout the state that this is quote unquote the urbanization of New Jersey. That's the talk that came out of the public policy from the original decision of Mount Laurel 1. Not many states, I can't think of any other state that's tried to follow New Jersey through the years. Back during the Obama administration, they tried to do something similar to this legislation through HUD. And it was ruled unconstitutional. So could you mind just giving us an overview?
Well, the original decisions came out of the Supreme Court, as Matt said, and it was based upon the fact that the Supreme Court, our Supreme Court, the New Jersey State Supreme Court, said that it's a state constitutional obligation to provide for housing, affordable housing. That's where it came from. And for a long time, we did have an administrative agency that took care of it, which was COA, and it worked for quite a while until governors didn't appoint members to it. They couldn't get a quorum, and so the rules couldn't be updated. They couldn't have meetings. Finally, the courts took it over, and frankly, that's been a complete debacle. Everybody all the towns submitted their complaints in 2015. As recently as a couple of months ago, I was still going to court on behalf of towns to get courts to approve of our plans that are now, 9 years old, and we're going into the next round. So that clearly hasn't worked, but now, we're starting with a new administrative agency, all new rules, and frankly, nobody's sure what's gonna happen. So we're gonna have to pay attention to it.
And John, and Brian, I don't know the name of it, I can't remember what it is, but you used to be able to sell your credits.
Correct.
You could transfer them.
Regional contribution
agreement.
So you could send them to some place where it made more sense, and now we're gonna put it in places that it doesn't make a lot of sense, instead of where it does make sense because of some weird regionalization methodology.
And there's also some other things that happened with some communities, for example, that our urban aid communities have no obligation, so all the other communities like Oakland have to make up for that. That's the filtering process that Caroline talked about, how it works to your disadvantage because there's some communities that don't have to participate.
But they're still part of the region.
Right.
So if you have, if you have 20 communities in your region and you have 5 that don't have an obligation, the other 15, the obligation doesn't go away, the other 15 are picking it up.
Right. So the other side of the county where I moved from, Alpine was that contributing factor, where they were selling their credits to. And
Right, but
towns,
you
towns like Tenafly.
Yeah, you could do that in rounds 1 and 2, you
right.
couldn't do it in round 3,
Make up for it.
but everybody that could did it in the first couple of rounds, yeah.
Right. So basically, there was a fee associated with it, and then a certain percentage or amount of your affordable housing obligation was moved or transferred to a different community within your region. And there was a fee paid, and that was permitted, as Brian indicated, in rounds 1 and 2, and removed from the possible options, I believe, in about 2008.
Can I just ask a question? Obviously, you stated in the beginning this was fast-tracked through the legislature and the governor signed it into law. Is there a possibility when we have regime change next year, new governor, this could be changed and this could be a moving target going forward? Or, it feels very
Well, we're not gonna have a
messy.
gubernatorial election until after these deadlines pass, so.
So, Eric, what they did this time, so Brian alluded to it, there was a Governor Christie who did not
Fill the seats. Right?
fill the seats
Right.
for the for the Council on Affordable Housing, so it was caused a backlog. So the court stepped in, which is essentially the round 3 that we've been living with. Not ideal, because you get mercurial decisions, but again, what is ideal in this situation when the state is saying there's a constitutional right and the character of your town really doesn't matter? So what they did with this legislation is they've taken out the guesswork and kept keeping another governor from doing something similar. Again, except maybe they don't fund the dispute resolution. I don't know what they would do, but also, a new governor, this is legislation. It would have to be presented to them.
Correct.
But,
Yeah.
and right now you have gerrymandered districts in this state where there's it's essentially sided towards one party versus the other.
Anyone else from the council have any questions?
No, I don't think so. Would we want to open it to the public?
Yeah. So what I'd like to do at this point, I'd like a motion open to public, being that this is going to have a profound effect on the character of Oakland.
So moved.
Second. Anybody from the public wish to ask any questions or address this, our professional?
Hi, Chopper Russo, 392 Rampo Valley Road. I deal with this Highlands all the time. There's parcels up along behind ShopRite, and we all know, are familiar with Pinnacle. So because that's Highland preservation versus planning. So you're telling me there's some large swaths of land up there that a builder could use what's called the builder's remedy, or use whatever Murphy's laying up for us and use that to basically say, I'm gonna do this, and the town has to let me do that?
Well, it needs to conform, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I would say it has to conform with with whatever the Highlands requirements are, and your Highlands properties, and particularly within the preservation area, should not be resulting in an obligation. But
And we're not subject to a builder's remedy suit unless we don't meet
Those
some of the timelines that we
Yeah.
have to meet. If we meet them, then we're not subject to that kind of a lawsuit.
All right, so I think we need to explain to the public how to make them Teflon against all these builders' remedies. Because,
Well-
I mean, these guys did a good job with the situation behind the high school, but on the builder's remedy, they could have put over 440 units. People think it's outstanding, you know, it's terrible they're putting in 191, but they don't know the other side of it. And Franklin Lakes is going through it with the old IBM property, and as Franklin Lakes did with the golf course. But we got a lot of land up behind ShopRite, you know, plus you have that old Pinnacle thing. So this seems to be falling right into that.
Well, that's why we're here tonight, that's why the mayor invited us, and that's why I tried to talk about the timeframes and the deadlines. And I think for at least two of them, I said, this is a really important deadline, and if you don't meet it, you could be subject, you could lose your immunity, you could be subject to exclusionary zoning, litigation such as that.
So let's just say we don't get Teflon proof. It looks very, they're saying we could build in the Highlands Preservation where heretofore we can't really even touch it without going through litigation. But if we're not Teflon proof, a builder could come in and load up our Highland Preservation area with affordable housing units.
Well, I think it would have to conform to whatever the Highlands requirements are. I think you have to, there are some, as part of the analysis within your housing element, you do have to look at the Highlands Preservation and the planning area and what could and couldn't be done there and the properties that are there. But I think that what's more important is the recognition that that the mayor and the council are giving to this and the importance of it. And again, we're gonna, as Brian indicated, you're only subject to these things if you lose your immunity, and you don't lose your immunity if you miss deadlines and don't do the work that's involved.
Yeah, understood, but dealing with Highlands Preservation and planning, it's so contradictory that they're showing that as an area that could be used.
Well, again, it depends, I'm not sure of the specific areas that you're talking about. Some areas in the Highlands can't be developed. So, you know, you have to look at, and there's different, you know, there's planning areas and preservation areas in the Highlands.
Right.
So you have to look at what specific regulations apply to those
No, I
specific lots.
understand that, but it looks like they developed loopholes.
And you know what? It might be that they're developable land, and we'll have to take that into account. But again, as long as we have a plan that meets the number that we are obligated to come up with, we're not subject to those kind of lawsuits. So no one gets to dictate to the mayor and council where the development will go.
So, you may not have the answer, we have a lot of properties that are high slope. Is that gonna protect us from getting developed on?
Not as much as it has in the past.
Not as much as it has in the
Right.
past. That was something that we used to, when we would do our vacant land adjustment, we were able to eliminate certain properties. One of them was steep slopes.
Right.
That's may no longer be the case, so we may no longer be able to
That's why I was
reduce
bringing up
those.
about Highlands. I mean, it's, you know,
But Highlands, it's different than steep slopes.
understood, understood, but, okay, I'll keep.
I have a question.
Thank you.
Mike, you
What's
get
the
them up.
difference between
You have to come up.
Mike has a 95 Walnut. What's the difference between affordable housing and low-income housing? And is there a difference in obligation?
So, affordable house, that's a great question, actually. So affordable housing in the state of New Jersey includes there's three different categories. There's moderate income, low income, and very low income. So low income housing is affordable housing, to answer to your question. And it has to do, there's of course formulas that are a little complicated. That has to do with the percentage of median income within the region and the size of the household. But yes, it's low income
And that would
housing.
adjust the requirements for development as well, correct?
So within the development, what the developer has to do is say what I refer to as a set aside. So a percentage of the total units need to be set aside or identified as affordable units. And those units are deed restricted as affordable units. There's a process for marketing them throughout the region, and there's a process for vetting whomever might move into or buy those units to make sure that their income is at the right level for that unit.
Okay.
And within that group of affordable units, just the overall category of affordable units, there are also regulations as to what percentage has to be very low income, what percentage has to be low income, and what percentage has to be moderate income. So there's a mix, and that's all spelled out in the rules.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Anybody else from the public wish to ask a question? Mr. Mazzilli?
48 Cherokee Trail.
Also a trustee of the Board of Education, so.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Peter Mazzelli.
Thank you.
Could you just come over here by the microphone so that the public can hear your question?
So I'm here, there's a formula, right? So that suggests objectivity, but there's a lot of subjectivity, I guess, in judgment on what qualifies for Highlands, or is there, how can we sort of handicap what our obligation is going to be looking into the future? So how, can we, is there a way we can get ahead of that formula and say, here's what we think it's going to be in terms of, the number of units that would be developed over the, say, 5-year or whatever that time horizon is planned? Or is that the plan that we put together prior to October to say, okay, whatever we get from the DCA, if we want to challenge it, here's the plan that we challenge it. So I guess what I'm just trying to drive to some way of kind of handicapping what's the obligation going to look like over.
So the one thing I can't tell you is what is your obligation number going to be? I can't answer that question right now. First of all, I don't think anybody can answer a question, that question with respect to any municipality in the state right now. What will your obligation be? What I think you're asking is, how can Oakland best protect itself so that it's ready when the obligation numbers come and when it has to prepare its plan? And that was a couple of things that we tried to talk about, was look at your vacant land, make sure your parkland is appropriately categorized, because we can exclude that from our obligation number. Make sure your mapping is up to date, things like that. Those are the things that we could do, in my opinion, at this point, to make sure that we're as ready as we can to meet the deadlines and to move forward.
Right. Yeah, the preparation is also for the school district, right? So to say, okay, we're going to have an influx of X number of units over the next X number of years with limited resources and limited capacity. So how do we do our part, right, to say we're prepared for that influx? And, time is our best asset, right? To be able to plan financially to be able to meet those obligations. So that's the basis of the question, is to try to understand how best we can predict the population growth.
Yeah, as Caroline said, it's impossible right now to determine what your number is going to be, but the best thing to do is, as the mayor and council have done, get started early, get your professionals involved, and be prepared when your number does come down to challenge it if there's a basis to do that.
Right. Okay, all right, thanks.
Also, don't the boards, let me rephrase that. So the Board of Education, don't quite often do they hire like a demographer, someone to do the
We do,
demographics,
yeah,
and they usually work
yeah.
with the building department and
Right.
to see, what can they do. There's an analysis they do, like looking at 10 years, I believe, or a certain number
Yep.
of years, and what's approved or what projects are kind of coming down the pike. So they do
Absolutely,
they do
we've
their
done
second
that, but
analysis.
there's an X factor, right, which says how much are we going to be, compelled to develop, right? And so we can only go by what we know. So we know about Indian Hills property, and so take that into account. But it would be nice to have some kind of vision over a 5 or 10 year time horizon. This is what we need to be prepared to do. So whatever we do today, is going to meet that obligation, is preserve the value of the properties of the town, right? Because that's
Right.
That's really what we're trying to do.
And this round 4 is supposed to last for 10 years.
Yeah.
So if that gives you any confidence. But as Brian indicated, we are still, we're all supposed to be done with our round 3 plans, but we are still in some towns, not here, but other towns, working still with the courts and, as this goes along.
But net, right, so, at the end of the year, October, the town will have an idea of what we think it should be, whether or not DCA fulfills their obligation to give us the plan.
To give us the obligation number, right?
In a perfect world, they'll give us an obligation number, we'll say, that sounds great, now we know.
That would be
That's the hope.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very utopian thought, Pete.
Thank you.
Well, the thing is, Pete, you can take your demographic study
Yeah.
and that you recently spent your money on and just rip it up.
Well,
in the
that's,
next 10 years.
that is, yeah, and so that's the unknown, right?
Right.
We could come around in October and say, well, it's about the same as what we thought it was gonna be.
Right.
Or
No
it's
one
completely
knows.
different.
No one knows.
It's really
Mr.
that, it's
Rizzo,
really that unknown.
Mr. Massey, I have a question for you. Is the School Board Association notifying school boards of this legislation and the impact it may have, or are you basically on your own?
I have not been notified, so as far as I know, there hasn't been a lot of
It's very recent though, evidently.
Oh, yes, it
4
was
weeks
just-
ago,
yes,
yeah.
not even
But it's a
4
good
weeks.
question, yeah, and we're gonna address that in our next meeting and see, yeah. You know, not just for the benefit of Oakland, I mean, we know now, and so
Right.
we know what we have to do, but other towns are fighting the same battle. And- Sorry, excuse my back.
Mayor, I have a question.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So, in like Closter on Railroad Avenue, they have an affordable housing project that is all studio apartments. And I think that was designed that way to not burn in the school system. So are we able to do like studio?
You
and-
can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that, so.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, there's a regulations called UHAC, Uniform Housing Affordability Controls, and UHAC specifically dictates the number of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units that must be in either any type of affordable development, or even a situation where there is a set aside and there's only a small number of affordable units that's part of a larger development. So I can tell you that no more than 20% of the total affordable units can be 1 bedrooms or studios. A minimum of 20% of the units must be 3 bedrooms. A minimum of 30% must be 2 bedrooms, and the remainder can be either 2 or 3 bedrooms. So that's, in order to be creditworthy, you have to meet UHAC, unless you have a situation where you have either specialized housing, such as a group home, that doesn't qualify for that those rules aren't required, or a situation with age-restricted housing doesn't have those same bedroom distribution requirements.
Anybody else from the public? We're still open? Not seeing any motion to close?
Close motion.
Second?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody else from the dais have any questions for our professionals?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I want to thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having us, Thank you for your laptop.
Thank you.
Any help?
I think I'm okay. Let's see. I'm not gonna-
Look at that, chiller is not bad.
Thank you.
We'll just give them a minute to leave.
Good.
Okay, we're up to the approval of minutes. March 26, 2024, executive minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Roll call?
Councilwoman Gofredo?
Yes.
Councilman McCann?
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli?
Yes.
Council President Saliani?
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski?
Yes.
Councilman Talamini?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a authorized raffle license, RL 1494, for a 50/50 for the Parents Athletic Council of Indian Hills to be held on April
2 dates,
26th and May 23rd.
So
at
moved.
Indian Hills. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorized raffle license, RL 1495, 50/50 for Marine Corps League Detachment to 744 on May 3rd, 2024 at the American Legion Building in Oak Street, Oakland, New Jersey. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorized raffle license RL 1496 for Casino Night for the Marine Corps League. It's going to be held May 3rd at the American Legion Building. Do I have a motion to?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Authorized social affairs permit for the Marine Corps League Detachment 744 for Casino Night May 3rd.
So moved.
Wait a second, is this a duplicate?
No, it's
No.
one
Oh,
social
okay.
affair,
Oh,
one's
cool.
the raffle license.
May 2024 American Legion. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Authorized raffle license RL 1497 for the Sports Association of Oakland for May 22nd, 2024, 5 p.m. for the benefit of the Oakland softball. Be held at Lawler Drive in Oakland. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I have a proclamation for Arbor Day. Arbor Day 2024, whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to a Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas on this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind, water, cutting, heating, and cooling costs moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase our property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they're planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, I, Eric Kamala, Mayor of the Borough of Oakland, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day. In our community of Oakland, I urge all citizens to support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, to support our city's urban forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden hearts and promote well-being of present and future generations. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. One more piece of business. The county came in with a last-minute request to do some work prior to the paving of Route 2202 North, and they wish to work Saturday, the 13th, from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
So moved.
Second, is that a roll call or is that a?
That's,
Excuse me, Mayor?
yes,
The times again?
it's going to be from 8 a.m. to 4:30.
Correct. Yes, thank you.
Do we have,
Second?
who's the second?
Get a second? Russ
Second.
is first. Jack?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are going to appoint the following tax appeal attorneys, Chase Lampro, and also Cleary, Jacoby, Alfredi, and Jacobs. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Gofredo?
Yes.
Councilman McCann?
Abstain.
Councilman Pignatelli?
Yes.
Council President Saliani?
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski?
Yes?
Councilman Talamini?
Yes.
Okay, I have an appointment to the Arts Committee. This is with mayor and council consent. Laura Bell has put her name in. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Okay. Moving on to resolutions, we have 24-128 through 24-137. Anybody wish to pull any out? I'd like to pull out 24-134, which is to authorize a revised Oakland Franklin Lakes interlocal sewer agreement. At this point, Franklin Lakes has not taken any action on that, so I'd like to pull this out for the next meeting. Anybody else have anything else they wish to pull out? Not seeing any? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Roll call.
Councilwoman Gofredo?
Yes.
Councilman McCann?
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli?
Yes.
Council President Saliani?
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski?
Yes?
Councilman Talamini?
Yes.
Okay, for ordinance, we have final adoption, 24 Code 944, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits to establish a cap bank pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-45.14. Mr. Coons?
Thank you, Mayor. So this ordinance is something that we do every year as part of the annual budget adoption process. And it simply allows us to increase the appropriation cap limit from the statutory 2.5% to 3.5% to reserve that extra 1% for possible spending in subsequent budget years.
Thank you. Any discussion from the council? Not seeing. Do I have a motion to open to public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody from the public wish to discuss 24 Code 944? Do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who's good? We have final adoption, 24 Code 944.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Gofredo?
Yes.
Councilman McCann?
Abstain.
Councilman Pignatelli?
Yes.
Council President Saliani?
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski?
Yes?
Councilman Talamini?
Yes.
Okay, work sessions. There's nothing on here for work sessions. Does anybody on the council have any new business that we should bring forward?
Mayor, we talked about it briefly 2 weeks ago. We had this presentation tonight about establishing a committee for forward planning for the borough. as opposed to being reactionary. If we had something like this last year, instead of hustling in the professionals tonight, we may have been better prepared for it. But I think, you know, it was prudent that we got them in right away. But I think we need input in terms of the town, what the town wants to look like and what it wants to be going forward 10 years from now. I mean, there's a lot of people tonight that come in to voice their desire to have the town step into their issues with regard to what they're claiming to be a waterways that somehow that we contribute to it, and that may or may not be true. But I think those are the types of issues where you have a committee and you have professionals on. You would obviously want a planner, some attorneys and realtors and other professionals in town to come forward with and identify specific things. It could be the RML issue or the Mirror Lake issue. Things like that may have been avoided, with this type of a committee in place. I've seen it done in some other towns and some disasters averted. So I think that the way to do it is to just assign a couple of council people to put together a plan on what a committee like this would look like, and then propose it, and even come up with potential names. I don't know how many people we would have, what authority it would have in terms of, it's just really no government authority except for input of the community, working with the elected officials, with the school board members too, as you brought up tonight. So it's a broad range of issues to look at this town over the next 10 years. And I would like to make a recommendation that we put a committee like that together.
Any discussion? Mr. McCann, do you think it would have a framework in place for the April 30th meeting possibly?
Well, depends upon who's with us.
Or how about we just get an update for the 30th, so how we're moving?
Okay.
Is that fair enough?
Sure. Do you want to assign anyone want to work on that?
Sure. Obviously, Mr. McCann, you seem very interested in it. Would you be willing to work on it?
I've done it before. I'll do it again.
Anybody else from the council wish to work
I need a little
for the
help.
planning committee?
Don't we have a land use committee? Shouldn't they just be part of it? Well, Russ and myself and you? Couldn't we be
A little
part of the
different.
committee?
Yeah,
It's a little different. But you would be welcome.
Who else wants to be involved?
Well, I'd be happy to be involved.
Okay, Mr. Talamini? Okay. So Councilman McCann and Councilman Talamini. Okay, thanks. We'll start coming up with a framework for the next meeting then. Terrific. Thank you. Any other new business? Any old business? Going on to council liaison reports. I think we'll start with Mr. Talamini.
Sure. With recreation, there's going to be summer camp signups. It's going on right now until April 30th. If you sign up on time before April 30th, you're guaranteed a spot. If you sign up after April 30th, you'll be put on a wait list and you'll have to pay a late fee. That's all I have for recreation. And then the only other thing, if I could, just quick, I just want to say over the last month, if I've dropped the ball on any of my committees or anything, I just want to apologize. The last 4 weeks have been a little rough, and I just want to say thank you to everyone in Borough Hall and everyone up here on the dais who had well wishes for me and my friends for everything that they've done, and I can consider you all my friends. Just concerning the death of my father. My father was a very special man to many people in Bergen County and beyond, but most of all, he was very special to me. And I just want to say thank you to all for all your well wishes, and it meant a lot to me and my family. Thank you.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes, I have two announcements. One I made last meeting, Team Up to Clean Up, April the 20th, 9 a.m. You can register at the Danny D'Elia building. Make sure to bring gloves and bug spray. And the other one is April 16th is our next Board of Health meeting. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Council President Saliani.
Thank you. So from the Board of Ed update, K through 8,
K-8 has a budget meeting on April 29th at VMS at 7 p.m. So people, please come out and join. If you have any questions, they'll review their budget. I also want to call out the K-8 board for something they've done. I think everyone's heard by now, but I want to reiterate it. They did a great job working out a lease with OLPH. You know, obviously we're running out of space at some of the schools, and we have some programs that we want to make bigger. And instead of trying to put a referendum together to the town where we have to vote, they found a more economical way. And they've leased some space, a 5-year lease in OLPH. And they'll be starting moving some programs over there at the start of the school year next September. Mostly, I believe, pre-K programs will start there, and they'll be building over that next 5 years. So the board did a very good job doing that, and I think everyone should be aware of what's going on there. For the Flood Commission, we had our meeting last night. First of all, the Flood Commission is looking for some new members, so anyone wants to join the Flood Commission, please do so. Mr. Coons, I wanted to do a new business, but I have to do it under my flood report. 141 and 142 Iroquois, we have to get the engineer to go look at those properties. They did a property walk there, and there's some river deterioration that's coming down, and it's affecting the homeowners' property. And we just need to make sure that we have the engineer go look at that.
Okay.
Also, they were, when is the meeting for the kickoff of the river restoration project?
The kickoff meeting occurred already. That was a few weeks ago. Dresden Rob and the aerials were taken as well. The drone footage for all of that. So Dresden and Robin is doing their work right now.
Thank you. And public events, we had a meeting last night. Public events is also looking for 1 or 2 more members, so all are welcome. And the next big event is going to be the Memorial Day Parade. Anyone, they're looking for walkers. Anyone who wants to participate, please reach out to Maine. Her email is auntiemaine1953@yahoo.com. I believe I said that. I don't hope I spelled it correctly. auntiemaine1953@yahoo.com. We're looking for people who like to walk in the parade and help out. That's all I have.
Councilman McCann?
Yeah, a couple minor things. Actually, not so minor. I want to talk about Bart Talamini for a moment, Russ's dad. I've known Bart for almost 30 years, and he was a pillar to the establishment in Bergen County, whether it was government-related or volunteers. Russ exemplifies his father's values with his volunteerism here in our town, and it's a real loss. And it was an honor to attend. My only lament is that Catholic Church needs to put in some kneeling pads. The second thing is on the earthquake, Mayor. We had another town water main break nearby us, or here in New Jersey.
The only one I've heard about recently was down in Randolph.
Right. So I want to commend you, our borough administrator, and the entire DPW crew that acted fast to get out there and inspect to make sure and secure the critical infrastructures of Oakland, especially in light of the fact that we have the new water wells in place and so forth. So it was, although it was relatively small in California standards at 4.7 or 4.8, depending upon when it was reported, it was the largest earthquake in over a century here in New Jersey. And we are in an earthquake belt. So, but I want to commend the staff for doing that, and I want to also just throw a compliment the mayor's way, because mayors don't get a lot of compliments. Eric, your leadership on that was great. Getting the word out to the people, what we were doing and what needed to be done was well done and efficient. And you didn't abuse the 911 system, and you weren't not an alarmist, and I want to thank you for that. That's it.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. See, from the library, Yoga with Sonia is back at the OPL on Tuesday nights. This free yoga program is great for beginners and experienced practitioners. Registration is required for each event, so check out the events calendar on their website or call the library to register. They also have a new children's yoga program on Saturday mornings with a certified instructor. Again, please register in advance for each class. On Sunday, April 14th at 2 p.m., they will host a jazz concert live on the library stage featuring local musician Ellen LaFerne. And on Thursday, April 18th at 6:30, they will have a program with Lori Carbone about downsizing and how to plan and prepare for that change. The Children's Department will continue its regular weekly programs and activities, including the music program, Jiggly Wiggly, this Friday. Registration is also required. Also, as a reminder, the OPL has renewed its museum passes for 2024, and they encourage everyone to take advantage of these passes. For more information, call the library or visit the website. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. On April 1st, the Shade Tree Commission met, and they discussed, they're doing a Arbor Day presentation at Dogwood School. On April 21st, they are doing a sapling giveaway at the library. That's Sunday, April 21st, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They also commented on the large response from residents they had for the Adopt a Tree program. Many residents have now been placed on a list to roll out over the next few years to receive a tree that the residents will take care of. Additionally, the Shade Tree really wants to thank Tony Smith. They thank him for all the many years of service that he volunteered on the Shade Tree Commission. On April 3rd, Access for All met. No new updates. They're planning for the Oakland Carnival and the Memorial Day Parade. On May 6th, OCC will hold a regular meeting at 7 p.m. Just a reminder, OCC does always need volunteers. That's it.
Thank you. Bills to be paid. Councilwoman?
Bills to be paid. One moment. Total bills to be paid, $307,716.73. So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Gofredo?
Yes.
Councilman McCann?
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli?
Yes.
Council President Saliani?
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski?
Yes.
Councilman Salamini?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Next.
Any second?
You got-
Who was the second?
You got a second?
Okay.
Okay, just remember, our next council meeting is on Tuesday, April 30th, because Passover is a week prior to that, so it's Tuesday, April 30th, 7 p.m. at council chambers. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.